Now, what I will say is that, you know, we talked about wanting to believe something. There are our desires certainly affect the way our minds work. And if you desire to believe something, you may, in a non-simplistic sense, begin to change what sort of evidence you're willing to accept. In other words, build a structure that eventually convinces you to accept what you're believing. But this very simplistic of I'm going to choose to believe this versus I'm going to choose not to believe this, I think that's asinine. And the second part of that, where people say, well, you know, can't you just try to believe? Well, depending on what their claim is, I may not want to believe. I'm entirely with Hitchens that the idea of some kind of getting to the end of my life and finding out that this life was some kind of cosmic joke and testing ground by some sick, twisted God being who designed everything and is going to judge based on all these actions, and your real life starts after you're dead. I mean, I don't have any reason to want to believe that. Oh, sure, I'd like to live longer than I'm going to live, perhaps even forever. I'm still debating that issue. But the idea of wanting to believe that there's some bumbling God who made mistake after mistake and loves blood sacrifice and killed himself for a weekend in order to save everybody, I don't even want to believe that.
What about kind of like a sociopathic tendency where if you maybe tell a lie enough times, you start to believe it, and kind of like a form of self-delusion? Do you think a lot of people are just kind of fall into that category? Yeah,
but I also wouldn't call that. I mean, I think we both agree that's also not an exercise simply the will. I mean, the mind can be trained,
right? And
I think that our minds are trained, and we are all a little bit brainwashed through. I mentioned many times we rely too much on induction and inference because they're generally reliable. We make mistakes that aren't discovered. And of course, these mistakes affect us because we build every future bit of information, every new understanding that we gain is based on everything that's come before. And there are numerous little mistakes, and most of them are probably innocuous and don't really have any catastrophic effects on the new understandings that we're acquiring. But occasionally, there's going to be some bit of misinformation in that structure that is going to poison everything up and get you to a point where you believe something with insufficient information. And I think that baseline training is what we're talking about when we're talking about things like mind control or learning by repetition or telling a lie so many times that it becomes the truth.
Right. Yeah, I've actually been watching some videos by Darren Brown. I don't know if you've had the chance to look at him, but his stuff
I love
really...
Darren.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I love Darren.
Yeah, his stuff was really, really good. But I didn't want to get off topic too much. I know you guys were talking about the war on Christmas, and I don't know if you guys had heard about these new buttons that people are wearing saying that it's okay to wish me Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I don't really have any objection to that. Yeah. I mean, it's a bit snotty, but so am I.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. And by the way, it's okay to wish me Merry Christmas. I'm not going to be offended if somebody called. It's okay to wish me Happy Hanukkah. You could say whatever you want to me. I'm not going to be offended. Now, and on some level, it's absurd. To come up, hey, Happy Hanukkah. It'd be like telling me Happy Birthday on your birthday. It's kind of like that, but it's not offensive.
Right.
It doesn't faze me. And as somebody who actually celebrates Christmas from an entirely secular perspective, and by the way, when I say celebrate Christmas, I mean I have on many occasions gotten together with family. I do exchange gifts on occasion. There have been Christmases, though, where I sat at home and did nothing and didn't really bother talking to anybody and didn't get together and exchange gifts or anything. So it's entirely up to whether or not I feel like it. But thanks a lot for calling, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot.
Did you have something to add on that?
No.
I stomped all over that. I just realized. I just marched right through the belief thing.
No, it's because you have a Jesus-shaped hole in your heart.
Yeah. Grinch. We've got Richard in Pennsylvania.
Hey. Actually, my question was, do you actually believe in a soul?
No.
What my question is basically, I am a brain. That's what the whole thing comes from. Like, if I'm thinking and I'm logically here, I could be anyone's brain. It's a little crazy talk, but, you know, how am I this person? Why aren't I a different person?
Yeah, I think if you think about, you know, what you're experiencing you're experiencing your own consciousness, okay, and that experience is very subjective and personal. And if you think about, you know, where are you in there? It's kind of hard to pinpoint it, but most people think, well, I'm somewhere in here, you know. But the way we use our brain to figure out what other people are going to do, and it's one of the things we have to do as social animals. We have what's known as the theory of mind. I have a theory that my mind exists. I exist, and my mind is actually the activity of my brain. Okay. So if I have a theory of that my mind exists, I can have a theory that yours does too. Okay. And now I've posited the existence of an unverifiable entity called a mind. Okay. And once we've done that, it's a pretty short leap to conclude that this mind exists independent of our physical life. And I think that's really where people get this idea of a soul. It's this unverifiable entity called a mind. We don't remember when we first became conscious because it happened when we're so young. So we think that we've always been here in this brain, this mind. And so we have this concept of a soul. And, you know, I think that's where it comes from. It's sort of like an evolutionary trait that kind of jumped the tracks a little bit and it allows us to go off in a different direction.
To kind of answer or respond to a question you ask of, you know, why are you you and not somebody else? Why isn't copper uranium? Because it's not. I mean, you are what you are. The idea that your brain could have a different conscious, sentient personality in it is true. We know this is true because people have suffered brain damage, which has resulted in dramatic personality shifts. And brain hemispherectomies can often result in two different personalities with different desires and thoughts within a single brain or within the two lobes of a brain. And there are ways of communicating with each half independently. This is all it's all interesting stuff that sounds almost science fiction-y, but the brain is not completely understood. We're a long way from that. But the idea that there is something extra it's understandable why people come to that, as Jen was pointing out. It's an idea that's appealing, but it's not necessarily an idea that is true. And this kind of Cartesian theater of the mind and the intentional stance of saying, I am me, and I can see what you're doing, and you're you. And well, when I'm dead, am I dead? You know, am I just the physical? And the answer is, as far as we can tell, yes. Every single thing that people have attributed to a soul that is identifiable, personality, likes, dislikes, thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensory information, all of that is reasonably identifiable in different areas of the brain and distinct from individual to individual. Now, what people do is they hypothesize something on top of this, that yes, your brain does all this, but there's some non-physical soul thing that is like the brain behind the brain. And there's no evidence for this at all.